Um, okay, we'll get started. You heard about specialty chemicals. We'll scale it up, go upstream. We'll talk about petrochemicals. Very interesting time for India. Before I bring my panelist, I'll set the overall context, what's going on in the market. If you talk demand in India, we're somewhere around 40 to 45 billion dollars worth of petrochemicals. Depending on who you believe, this is expected to reach around $70 billion in next 7 to 10 years. So huge opportunity. This is what you'll be hearing if you go to any petrochemical conference. What's happening in addition to that is something very, very interesting. 50% of our intermediates get imported today. So the growth that is coming, it's only going to widen the gap. I don't think we are doing enough in terms of putting up capacity to bridge the gap. And this is very important. It got exposed recently with the Iran war, where several petrochemical players had to ramp down their capacity. IOCL, BPCL, Reliance, GAIL, everyone faced the brunt. So it really, our resilience, or rather the lack of it, showed up because of this war, and something that we'll explore further. The other thing that has happened is China going crazy over capacity. They have more than 400 million tons of capacity. Whoever you talk to, this overcapacity is not going away for at least next 5-6 years. So on one side, we are import dependent, we have feedstock dependency, and should we be building more? But on the other side, there's a global overcapacity, especially in commodities within petrochemicals. So that's the context we are living in, which is what brings to the question of what should Indian petrochemical industry be chasing? Should we be chasing self-sufficiency because we have an overhang of global overcapacity? Should we be continue to focus on commodities, or is there a way to go down into specialty because that area seems to be a bit better placed and more immune to competition? Or, we should be looking into different feedstocks. Should we be, focusing a lot more on alternative feedstock? These are some of the themes I would explore with the panelists today. And, hope we have a good conversation over next 1 hour. Let me get started. My first question, I'll start very upstream, Mr. Sharan, to you. Crude to chemicals has become the big theme, especially as the fuel demand is expected to slow down in terms of growth. And would be very interesting to hear, as ONGC, how are you thinking about it? Is the opportunity from an ONGC point of view more to focus on upstream and provide that feedstock, or you are actively thinking about going downstream and capturing that value as well?
Thank you, Sudeep. See, ONGC is primarily an upstream company, but it's a well-known fact that value increases when you go further downstream. And in that aspect, ONGC is pursuing this aspect very selectively. I can't say that, okay, we are going aggressive on that, but see, the point is value maximization remains there. Everybody is aware, majority of the ONGC crude is light crude. And light crude going to conventional refinery, the value is not getting extracted fully. So ONGC is exploring that value, that how that light crude can be utilized for an integrated refinery petrochemical complexes where we are having a very high intensity of petrochemical, and then we are getting that right value for our crude. So in that aspect, yes, ONGC is looking forward to an integrated refinery petrochemical complex with very high petchem intensity. But nonetheless, it's a complex game. The market is down, petrochemical prices, commodity prices are not that lucrative in this cycle. So we are evaluating that option. But just to continue that, ONGC had made its own plan, and already you may be aware that ONGC increased its stake in its one of the joint venture in Opal to enter into aggressively into that Petchem business. Further, we are getting into the integrated marketing of the entire Petchem chain so that we have that more depth in that Petchem market rightly, so that valuation remains within that company. So at this moment, okay, we are going ahead with this and we will be coming out at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharanji. Saugata ji, coming next to you, congratulations on recent refinery commissioning. And I know petrochemical first cracker for HPCL on a standalone basis will be coming soon. You will enter in a market which is oversupplied. How are you thinking about it? What is your strategy? Does it remain commodity, or is there a thought on specialty polymers? Others would be good to hear your view.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we are entering into a very turmoil situations, I would say. But I would like to remind you guys that this is probably the first refinery which was incepted to be producing more of petrochemicals, and that is evinced by the fact that this HRRL petrochemicals intensity index is 26.6%, which is the highest in the regions. And we are committed to certainly strike the right balance between the commodity and specialties, because what we believe that these refinery with 2.4 million tons petrochemicals capacity, we will be able to produce a lot of products for which India is import dependent. And we are using the latest generation catalyst through which we are going to produce, let's say, large plot blow molding or metallocene catalyst with LLDP, which are either 100% or more than 60% import dependent. So we are going to produce all these products for which the Indian plastics industry will be enormously benefited because of this just-in-time deliveries. So apart from those in HRRL, we are also trying to valorize various streams coming out of these refineries. Of course, the focus is be on HRRL first, but we are also very actively working on towards valorizing the streams from our Vizag refinery, for example, propylene derivatives and all these things. So yes, I can say that it will be a right balance between the commodity plastics or polymers or petrochemicals and the specialty ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Saugata ji. Nilesh, my next question to you. BPCL started petrochemical journey a little bit later than some of the other, but you are going very aggressive. You have 2 cracker projects that are live today. Again, similar question, given the global overhang, how are you de-risking your projects as they come along and the timelines around that as well? Would be good to get your view.
Yeah, thanks Sudeep, and good afternoon everyone. To set the perspective, so I'm representing BPCL here. So we got up late, as Sudeep mentioned, we got up late, but we got up like anything, like we'll be trying to disrupt with the Bina refinery, with the expansion, 2.2 million product into market, then we're going ahead with the Andhra Pradesh, will be around 3.4 million products. So around 6 million product will be there in the market at the end of 2030. So we are late, but we'll be disrupting, that's true. So basically, for this big project, what we are expecting, the first is the oil to chemical conversion. As some mentioned, like around HRRL 26%. So for BPCL, we actually we are lying at around 2.5 currently. But the Bina project, we are expecting to go to 20. But as we compare with our competitors, where that 20 stands, basically, it's not a green or a greenfield project, it's a brown plus green. So basically, I have put in 3 million extra crude, but that I'll be converting into 2.2 million products. So it's actually 75% for the revamp case. 75% I'll be converting crude to chemicals. For the Andhra Pradesh refinery, I'm going ahead and my what we call the petrochemical intensity index, oil to chemical ratio, that will be 37, and that is at par with the global players, maybe from the China or the Middle East. So we are not lagging anywhere. So there is the things, I think 2-3 criteria are there. The selection of the technology, the selection of the configuration, be it the technology, we can ask for the moon to start with, but it's not a viable option. We have to start with the known processes and just to see whether we stand relevant for decades to come. The second will be the flexibility of the feedstock. Yes, we are flexible. The projects that we are putting, we have been extremely flexible with respect to feedstocks. Let it be ethane, LPG, naphtha for that matter, the gasoline, the gas oil cuts like the diesel cuts, etc. And heaviest also we can cut and make the feedstock for the petrochemicals. So that way also we are flexible. Another aspect is the right product with respect to the demand. Whether we are aligned, yes, that is going to release me. Next important point will be the execution readiness from our side. The maturity of the engineering, the LLI, the long lead items, how we are ordering them, the contractual philosophy, how we are taking, the skilled manpower, how we are fixing the skilled manpower per our skill set. So actually we are going deep into that and we are trying to de-risk ourselves at this stage. And the third, of course, is the market integration, the important point. See, ultimately the first thing that we talk about the operational integration. The additional thing that we have to always think, are we integrating with the existing market and the market to come? Like whether we are future ready with respect to the market, the infrastructure ready. And the third important aspect will be the customer ecosystem. Customer ecosystem in the sense, I cannot ask customer to come to my place, take it away, and then I'll be expecting it to be all economically okay, no. So whether I'm developing the customer ecosystem so that I flourish in that particular journey. So those are the bigger aspect. Now, completely I cannot go away with the risk. Okay, only I can excel when I anticipate and manage it early, that risk. So ultimately, the timelines he's asked about. The timelines are very aggressive on the timelines. As we mentioned, we got up late, so we have to catch up the ground, right? So we cannot just be soft on that front. So 4 years from start to end to complete the project, it's highly aggressive. But yes, after 2 years and 2 years remaining to the project, I can confidently say that 2028, which we envisage for the Bina Refinery Petrochemical Complex, it will see the day of light. And Andhra Pradesh, anyways, we are saying 2030. That is also not away from your catch. So ultimately, that's the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilesh. Moving a little bit, Mr. Pandit, as a specialty chemical voice on this panel, do you think downstream value creation among this, global overcapacity can be a win-win theme? Is there an opportunity for private specialty players and PSUs to collaborate on that? And is it happening? What more can happen? Would be good to hear your views.
Thank you for the opportunity and very good question, especially from the comparatively small scale specialty chemicals sector. Having worked on both the sides, like earlier I was working on the refining Petchem side and now moving towards the specialty side, I personally think this is one of the very key levers in the overall growth of the chemical sector, especially when you in the beginning remarks you mentioned that a lot of chemicals are going to get imported, and that is the story today. Like today, as a specialty chemical operator, I see that most of my feedstock is available more competitively outside, and then that tends me to buy it from outside, and some of the key feedstock is not available here in India. And the opportunity basically is immense. And just to give some example, like for example, there was a recent report from Niti Aayog which said that the basic building blocks which are manufactured in India, how they are utilized vis-a-vis the global average. And if you see, for example, just take the example of propylene, almost 95% goes into the polymers. And if you take, for example, benzene, almost like 90% is going in either alkyl benzenes or some part going in chlorobenzene, while the global average is only 25%. And for propylene, the global average is only 60%. So what is happening is basically the feedstock diversification from the big refiners and the big PSUs to the downstream specialty and the intermediate industry is a very big opportunity. And just like my co-panelist mentioned that they are doing it basically, like for example HPCL, we are observing that almost 25 to 30% yield is petrochemicals. And that's how they are also realizing, and that's a very big opportunity for specialty chemical people to grab on this opportunity and start using those chemicals in their feedstocks, as well as see future opportunities in setting up capacities for making advanced intermediates. So I think there is an immense opportunity there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pandit. Gaurang, coming to you, from a technology standpoint, where is India's petrochemical most dependent on foreign technology, and is there a pathway to reduce or close that gap?
Yes, thanks for the question. I would rather say it's more like the leveraging the technology, because the big picture is at present, if you look at the opportunity side, there's a huge demand coming from the petrochemical sector. We are still importing around 1.4 lakhs crore of petrochemical products. And the demand is also it's around 1.3 to 1.5 times of GDP growth rate. And we're anticipating around 6 to 7 GDP growth rate in coming future. So the huge demand is anticipated, right? And the entire petrochemical sector, as you also talked about, around 50 to 60 billion dollar represent, and expected to grow around 360 by 2040. So that is the opportunity side. So now coming back to the technology part, I think for the petrochemical sector to become successful, there are three important factors. One is the feedstock economics, technology, and economy, and execution at scale. So when we talk about the execution at scale, I think you have already given the example of China. We can see that China is not very much comfortable in feedstock and neither in the technology, but they are playing at the execution at scale. And by the time they are developing their technology, because technology development takes time, huge time, right? And when we talk about the petrochemicals, the technologies, there is a molecule precision, right? So it will take a time, but we cannot wait because we cannot miss the bus. So that is the journey. And if I compare the same trajectory with the refining sector as well, because I think this is the same curve where we are going to follow. In refinery, we are much more comfortable. We are fourth largest refining capacity in the world. And there are many, some technology and catalysts that we have developed. Starting from the physical separation, refinery-related technology has moved to the molecule level, and now the catalyst are being developed. IOCL R&D has also, they have their own INDMAX, Octomax, a number of technology and catalysts as well. In the similar line, some P and PP catalysts are also being developed. So by the time these things will keep on happening, but the big picture is to getting more and more aggressive and get some rigor in the petrochemical segment. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurang. After these opening thoughts, we'll get a little bit deeper into some of the themes. The first theme I want to take up is the feedstock shock and the resilience. Coming back to you, Nilesh, across your refinery and petrochemical, how did you see the current episode of the Iran war, and how the thinking has changed to handle some of these shocks going into the future? Would be good to hear your views.
Yeah, thanks again, Sudeep. So basically, disruptions or this sort of volatility nobody likes, but we have no other option but to live with it and overcome it with great of our efforts. So basically, we are a PSU. Basically, we are a PSU, and we have to safeguard national interest. That is the foremost. The crisis led to LPG crisis. That crisis led to LPG crisis. And as you understand, LPG is nothing but C3 and C4 molecule. Once we are into C3 and C4 molecule, downstream industry is bound to get affected. So there is no running away from this. We have no other scenario. We actually are a bigger company, but with respect to C3, C4, this is not our market. India, on a broader scale, if you see, we are importers of the LPG. So we will be always on a shortfall. We have to be on the import scenario. But how did BPCL manage? Or how we are going to manage with your upcoming petrochemical projects? So that's where I say de-risking, as I mentioned in the first answer. So having the flexibility with the feedstocks. Another is like having the interconnectivity between our facilities like the Kochi or the Bina or the Mumbai refinery. Mumbai refinery will be producing, say, propylene. So it has to move somewhere, right? It can move to the Kochi. So that way we are building up the infrastructure, the naphtha stocks, etc. We can be interchanged. So earlier that part was not there. So we are forcing the things. We have seen the Corona episode. There we dealt with it handsomely. After that we have seen the Russia episode. There also we have handsomely and actually overcome that with processing more and more of Russian crudes where we actually encashed the situation. So this time also it was nothing else. Like we anticipated this. We have got the strategy, the multi-pronged strategy, like we have the multiple sources to source our crudes. If we are not only dependent on the Middle East, like say China is dependent on Middle East, say 60 to 80% for the times. US on the Canada for 80%, but we are not. Say 25 to 30% from the Middle East, other from the US, from the eastern side, from the Russia. So we are not going to get handicapped by a single failure of a single sort of episode like this. So that was the thing. Another thing, what we have done differently in the last 4 years, we have set up our own trading days for the crude. Our main business is to process the crude and do the marketing of it. But we are gone one step ahead to safeguard our interest. We are into a trading desk. We get our crude ourselves. Our people sit in Singapore market, we get our crudes, and that's how we manage efficiently during this last crisis. 1 month here and there, anyways, you have to see the deep sea. After that, we have come to the show and we have done excellently well. So ultimately, volatility, you cannot get away with it, but you have to develop a robust system which can just get you across the swing. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilesh. Mr. Sharan, a lot of, exposure traces back to upstream feedstock security. As an upstream player, how are you thinking about it? And is there a way to de-risk this chain a bit?
You are asking about supply chain of this feedstock, no? So now the issue is that as upstream producer, whatever we are producing, that is being utilized within the country. In fact, for the only way to de-risk this is to diversify the source. Like we were highly dependent for our feedstock at Opal through this Qatar LNG. Now, in any case, that Qatar LNG, rich LNG contract was getting expired. So we had entered into that, diversifying that source, that okay, we will be taking C2 from one other source and C3, C4 from different sources, so that our supply chain remains agile for any kind of uncertainty. So with the country 60 to 70% dependent on import for all these feedstock of say C2, C3, C4, naphtha, the only way is to diversify that feedstock sourcing. Basically, only diversifying the feedstock was not the solution. This time, in the current crisis, we had seen that logistic issue also, like availability of tankers crossing the Hormuz, or maybe the risk premium and all. So that also needs to be addressed so that we are not putting all the eggs in one basket. So in our opinion, the only solution remains that let us diversify the source and make that supply chain strong.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Are there any concrete steps in increasing the domestic production of gas, NGL, or even crude oil, which helps in naphtha production?
See, Sudeep, you are aware that, okay, all the shallow water and onshore has been extensively explored. So we are keeping all our hopes on the deep water, and with the recent permission to explore the deep water and new blocks, now we are aggressively bidding on that. But see, deep water success is one is very time taking, and then that success to convert it to Indian shore when we are going into Andaman or even East Coast, it will be a challenge for on the supply chain aspect. So we have to look into how we will be able to utilize those resources once it comes to production.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, next theme, I mentioned in my context, on one side we want self-sufficiency, on the other side we are not cost competitive on feedstock. Can technology really help? Is it realistic? Gaurang, coming to you, I mean, how realistic it is? Can technology really solve the feedstock disadvantage problem? Alternate cracking routes or feedstock flexibility, are these realistic? Or it's a fundamentally, a cost problem, not a technology problem?
Yes, there is somewhat a problem with the feedstock cost economics for India. If in numbers, like, first of all, I will like to say that what is the feedstock choice, how we select it, right? So choice is dependent on the availability and prices, right? But for the Indian context, I think availability is the dominating factor, because you can see the Asia around 60-70%, the naphtha based is there, right? But if we compare the similar thing with the US, I think you can say the cost of ethylene produced from the US ethane, right? That is coming around $300 to $500 per MT, right? And if you compare the same cost of naphtha from in Indian context, coming around $800 per MT. There's a huge difference. But if we take the same US ethane imported to India, then the cost is coming around 600. So still, the imported ethane is still competitive in terms of cost when we compare with the naphtha, right? But still, so we have to look at the picture in a very prudent manner, because we have an excess in naphtha, right? So selecting the proper route and configuration, all these things can handle the issue. Because we should also keep thinking with the lens of energy transition as well. Because by the time the energy transition, suppose MS is always competing with the naphtha, which side naphtha is going to, whether it is going to be in the petrochemical pool or going to gasoline pool, right? So we can see, but by the time the energy transition is happening and we are expecting around post 35, 37, we can see the MS demand is going to be peak. Then onwards, demand will be declining, and naphtha will be more available for the further cracking. Further, going 2040 forward, there will be some other feedstock fuels like gas oils, LPG. They will also be available for the cracking. So we should also keep thinking on the same line. At the same time, presently, I think going for the gas-based cracker is a more economics, not in terms of OPEX only, but in terms of CAPEX as well. Because ethane cracker requires very small size, less CAPEX as compared to the naphtha.
Thank Gaurang. Mr. Sharan, coming back to you, you mentioned feedstock flexibility and bringing some of the, alternate feedstock is also another way to ensure that we have more resilience. I know Opal is planning to bring in ethane from US shores. If you can touch upon what all steps are being taken as an industry to diversify the feedstock sources, especially when it comes to petrochemicals, that would be very useful.
For the feedstock, see, one of the plant what we referred, that Opal, is on that ethane and naphtha based plant. Now what the new one we are looking at, that we are looking at that multi-feed cracker, not only limiting to naphtha and ethane, rather to get that all the surplus products even in fuel. Because see, sometime what is happening that if we say that we will be looking at C2, C3, C4, the country is running sort of LPG. And see, this risk always remains that, okay, if your plant is LPG based or other way, you will be risking our capacity. So what we are exploring that, okay, we will have a multi-feed cracker where any feed can be put in that and we remain that, we continue to be in that petchem production. So that is one of the things we are looking at. As far as Opal is, you said, Opal we have made it possible that, okay, we will be sourcing naphtha and ethane from outside, so that dependence on domestic production goes down. So that is it.
Thank you. Moving on, the next theme I want to take up is specialty and high value downstream as a hedge against the commodity overcapacity. Saugata, first question to you. With the going overcapacity, the specialty becomes more of a necessity than a choice, and what's your thought on that?
Well, I know in any petrochemical producers, going down the value chain is the dream for everybody. And one of the missions of HPCL is that to capture the value, to create the value and capture the value as well. And petrochemical business is certainly no exceptions of that. Having said that, I would say that India is very well anchored in terms of its domestic demand, because a lot of commodities still we are importing, we are import dependent. So certainly the moving forward to that, petrochemicals and the specialty one is not the survival, but it's a strategic decisions taken by HPCL. We would like to go or capture the entire value across the value chains. And we are having a very state-of-the-art R&D centers, riding on which we are have a very robust roadmap to go and create that specialty chemicals ecosystems around our HRL refinery. And as I mentioned previously, we are also actively looking into these various valorizations of our streams from Vizag refinery. I personally believe that we are going to be a very, very formidable player in terms of adding a lot of specialty products in petrochemicals fraternity. For that, we are also will be catalyzing Honorable Prime Minister's mission to Atmanirbhar Bharat. So definitely will be very rich in specialty petrochemical product, not for the survival purpose, but as a strategic call we are going to take. Thank you.
Thank you, Saugata. Mr. Pandit, you talked about collaboration between the downstream cracker players and specialty chemical players. I have talked about this on multiple forums, but it isn't really scaled. There are very far and few examples. From your perspective, what is really the barrier? Is it the building block sharing? Is it the technology, the market structure? What will really be, what we need to do to kind of really drive this collaboration?
Hello? Yeah, so about your question, I would say the technology I would put as the third barrier, or rather the second barrier and not the first. Today, for the small sized and the medium sized commodities or specialties, I think they can easily source technology. Most of the companies have now already been in a lot other decades journey of investing in R&D, and they are seeing the fruits of their own internal technology getting developed, or technology they are able to source. So like whether it is from the western side or even from in the eastern side, say Japan or China or Korea, it's technology is not a barrier. The main barrier today is still the markets. And what I mean, the market structure is like, first, like in the first question when you asked, I was talking about the feedstock diversification. In the markets, what I mean is today a small player, he needs to really have that supply reliability when he moves to collaborate with a big PSU or a big upstream producer. And there today, though is changing again with the rider, I would say that the world is changing here in India also. But historically, like a long-term supply reliability through either a long-term contract on pricing and supply. Those things are now slowly, we are seeing more and more examples coming up where we're not really a part of the overall environment. And that was one of the major barriers. Now we are seeing, like even in our case, we have seen that now we are able to even do a pipeline contracts with PSUs, and many other companies are doing it. And I think that is the way going forward. Not only is the allocation of building blocks to commodities and specialty chemicals, but also over the fence kind of arrangements of pipeline supply over a long term of reliable feedstock which is sufficiently supplied, so that a small scale or a commodities manufacturer sees a long term value and can make a good commercial proposal out of it.
Thank you, Mr. Pandit. Saugata, from your point of view, you'll soon be producing ethylene, propylene. What's view from public sector to be able to share these building blocks rather than converting them into polymers? Any thoughts on how this can convert into win-win situation where there's more propensity to share? Would be good to hear.
Yeah, in the sense, that's actually long-lasting questions, which is largely unanswered, I would say, because, see, look at this, when a project is incepted, the main stream like ethylene and propylene has already been earmarked for the polyethylene or polypropylene. I mean, that is how the entire economics has been revolving around that. And that is probably one of the reasons that propylene is converted 95% to polypropylene, India globally around 75%. Same cheese is ethylene, India maybe around little bit better, 75% against that globally 66%. I personally believe that to address this issue right at the inception of any projects, greenfield projects, those are the things has to be in collaborative manner with a strong government interventions to create a shared infrastructures in terms of the pipeline, in terms of the port, in terms of the utilities, because it's my personal experience, I can tell you, even if I want to give some propylene to downstream industries, but the transfer price is becoming very high. Why? Because not only the molecule itself, but because there is no infrastructures in place. The product has to move from west to east or east to west, because the plant is some other place of this petrochemical plant and the downstream is some other places, and the infrastructure cost is very high. So it is not a win-win situations neither for these refineries or these downstream industries. I personally believe that instead of doing that, we need to really create some kind of an ecosystems where we can share all these things. Like, I'm not saying that we have to entirely copy that Houston, Al Jubail, or the Shanghai or Antwerp. Those are the iconic places where these kind of things are existing. But at least if you can do some miniature of that, like mini PCPIR kind of thing, or we can definitely look into this gap funding kind of thing, or bringing those specialty chemicals which are coming or which are 60% import dependent, bringing them under the direct PLI schemes. So those are the things will definitely attract people for the investment in this downstream and The sharing, definitely there should be some kind of an ecosystems, sharing infrastructures, utilities, and all these things will resolve this issue, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Saugata. Changing gears a bit, talking about biofeedstock, decarbonization, which used to be a very important theme at least 2 years ago, but things have changed. Nilesh, coming back to you, net zero, is it still a consideration? I know it was a big thing 2 years ago. Everyone announced their net zero plans. Is it something that you factor in as you conceptualize projects, or has it become more of a compliance?
Oh, thanks. That's my favorite subject. I personally don't see, and I don't see BPCL also sees at a compliance cost. Basically, this is more of sort of a blazing in disguise. We have to exploit to the last molecule so that we have the value. Today, like we have got so many handles, like the heat integration, energy efficiency, then electrification of so many drives in the plant, then the emission loss reduction, etc. In terms of the Solomon benchmarking, as you see, like we believe to be in the Q1 D1, we call it, the quartile 1 performance from the day 1. So ultimately, as Mr. Saugata mentioned, it has to be there in the design. It has to be there since the inception. So you have to aim for quartile 1 from the day 1 of commissioning of the plant. Those sort of design aspect you have to get into, and then you will reap the benefits. Ultimately, you have to get the output out of it, like the money out of it. Some of the things that we see, like maybe the green hydrogen or the large scale carbon capture, maybe a distant dream for us as of now, as we say. But hydrogen, we have already made the inroads from the BPCL side. At Bina facility, we already commissioned our green hydrogen plant last year itself, and it's running fabulously. So we can catapult on that, built on that, and we can go to the higher capacity from that front. CCUS, etc., that everybody is waiting for the big breakthrough anyways. So ultimately, the winners are those like who can achieve both, the reduction in the emissions and the reduction in the cost. So those will be the winners. Thanks.
Thank you, Nilesh. My last question in this theme, biofeedstock, Gaurang, coming to you. We keep on talking, India has agri feedstock waste and bio can make a lot of sense, but we have seen very, very few examples to be able to commercially scale it up. Often technology or cost becomes prohibitively expensive. Do you see any realistic opportunity in biofeedstock over the next 5-10 years? Any key products that come to your mind from that point of view?
Yes, if in the present changing energy landscape, if I talk about, I think bio segment is going to play a very crucial role. For example, we can see the changing story in the CBG segment, right? A lot of like CBG plants are coming up, and around 200 plus plants are already there, and more than 700 plants is under commissioning as of now. And the potential that we assess for the CBG segment is around more than 50 to 60 MMT of gas CBG potential, right? Where like the present gas consumption is around 49 MMT around, right? So that is the potential that we can see. Similar story, because already a lot of things are happening in the bio segment. We are going to witness SAF in coming years. A lot of plants are being commissioned for the SAF production because there is a mandate of starting from 1% from 2027 onwards, right? So a lot of biomass aggregation schemes are there, a lot of incentives are there, right? When you talk about SAF production, then for India, like ATJ route is very very promising for Indian context. And if you talk about ATJ route, there the first step is dehydration of ethanol, where we produce ethylene, right? And ethanol to ethylene is a very well established technology, and some of the players are already manufacturing the similar ethylene related value chain products. And we also see the ethanol growth story in the country as well. We can see there is a huge capacity around 2,000 crore liter at present, and in the blending it is around 11 to 1200 is being consumed. So still there is some excess capacity. A lot of efforts are underway to see where this molecule can be effectively utilized. Like, certainly it will play a crucial role in SAF, right? Some biomass. So we still become very hopeful in the coming segment when the economics match or some incentives come up, right? Then bioethylene things will certainly be coming up in the future. We have some examples in the Brazil and other countries as well, right?
Thank you, Gaurang. Closing this session a bit, I'll go in the order, Mr. Pandit, first to you. What's one thing you want the audience to take away from today's discussion?
I think the one thing I want to say is that we have a big, deficit, import deficit. Like we are importing a lot of chemicals and basic commodities, and India is heavily dependent on imports. And technology and capital are really not going to solve it. We need to make it through, industry partnerships and also with government support, the right market infrastructure to solve this deficit.
Thank you. Saugata?
For me, actually, I would really urge that reassess the single region sourcing and try to build optionality around the sourcing and the logistics. And of course, that alignment of capital, capex with the resilience. And the companies who will be adopting fast will be able to in a better position to defy the odds. That's it.
Nilesh?
Yeah, the real opportunity for India lies not only in creating the petrochemical capacity, but it's like building the really integrated, globally competitive petrochemical ecosystem. So this has been BPCL's all along theme or the philosophy, be it Bina, Mumbai refinery or the upcoming Andhra Pradesh refinery. That's how we believe it. Thanks.
Thanks, Nilesh. Mr. Sharan, your thoughts?
In my opinion, India may not be having that competitive advantage in commodity, but obviously we can make a specialty as our core strength. The only thing we need to collaborate and make that specialty production successful. That is the thing where we stand winner.
Gaurang?
I think there is no single breakthrough. Rather, it's a combination of feedstock prudence, technology, and sustainable execution.
Super. Thanks a lot. I would like audience to have a quick round of applause to thank the panelists for sharing their views.